Hi everyone, my name is Laksmi Sena Hartini, and you can call me Laksmi. I'm part of the Department Business and Finance of Vocational School di Ponorogo University. And today we will explore a topic of great importance in the modern global economy, the taxation of the digital economy, with, of course, specific focus on the Indonesian context. And my presentation will be provide a comprehensive overview of Indonesian approach from the key regulation of the practical implementation for businesses and customers. Okay, we start the topic now, and the digital transaction is now type of tax, but rather a form of clarification of the gray area in the tax regulation. The government or tax authority and concerned with digital transaction by foreign taxpayer. In this case, a foreign digital company that conduct digital activity in Indonesia and earn income in Indonesia, but do not have like a branch office or representative office in Indonesia. And unilateral measures taken by different countries to tackle the taxation of the digital economy can be broadly categorized into direct and indirect tax. And if we talking about the direct tax can be formed from of the income tax and are proposed in most country through the imposing the call like digital service tax or DST or withholding tax or digital permanent establishment or PE. And if we talk about the indirect tax is manifested through the collection of the value-added tax or VAT or goods and services tax GST. And Indonesia is the least of the country that have implemented both the direct and indirect tax targeted at the digital economy. We say about the evolving economic landscape. We face two discussion here. The first is about the traditional tax challenge. The traditional tax system are based on the company physical presence. For example, like a factory, office, or shop, maybe something like that, that has a physical place, physical presence. And digital businesses often operate without a physical presence in the country, making them difficult to tax. And how Indonesia respond about this? The government of Indonesia recognized the need to adapt its tax law to capture revenue from the growing digital sector. And the goal is to create a fair and level playing field for all businesses, both the conventional and digital, domestic and foreign. And the core of this challenge lies in the concept of physical presence for the countries, as company tax liability was tied to its physical footprints like warehouse, an office, or factory. However, digital businesses from the streaming services to online marketplace can generate billion in revenue from a country without a single physical office or employee there. So this issue create imbalance. A local business selling, for example, local business selling good in physical store must collected and remit VAT, but foreign digital company selling the same type of good or services to the same customer was not. That's pulling the local businesses at disadvantage. So Indonesia respond like Indonesian government response was proactive effort to close these two of gap. And if we check about the regulation or milestones, first there's an initial proposal that the plan was initially part of the omnibus tax law. So we have in Indonesia, we call it the powerful law, we call it omnibus tax law, that the COVID-19 pandemic and the need of economic stability prompted to the government to fast track this agenda. So basically the omnibus law is the fast track for this agenda. And the key regulation regarding about digital tax in Indonesia, there's two main regulation here. First is Perpu number 1, 2020. The main regulate here is government regulation is lieu of law introduced in March 2020 to ensure national economic stability. It was the first legal step to the tax of digital economy. And then the second regulation is Law number 2, 2020. Still on 2020 is ratified the Perpu number 1 and making it in the formal legal instrument. And last, but very current from 2025, in 2022, the government issued the PMK 60, that Crucial Minister of Finance regulation that provide the detailed technical procedure of VAT collection on digital transaction. So this is will be main of regulation that we will discuss. We will discuss on our discussion later. And the journey of this regulatory framework was accelerated by the pandemic. Based on I informed before that the government showed that an opportunity to secure state revenue and ensure economic stability by formalizing this tax in Perpu number 1 until the law number 2. And the last in PMK 60 2022, 2022, it's the how to guide. It replaced an early regulation and provide the specific details rule for how VAT will be collected, paid, and reported, which will be explored in our upcoming slide. And now in the beginning, we also talk about direct and indirect tax. Now we will explain or more like learning about that. And first, if we call direct tax, that implies to the income tax, and indirect tax that implies to the VAT. First, we will talk about the direct tax. And the aim to the tax in income of foreign digital businesses, and the legal basis is the concept of significant economic presence, or SEP, and which is replaced to the traditional permanent establishment, or PE, concept for tax purpose. So PE now move or shift from PE to the SEP. This area is complex and still under development, often impacted by the international tax treaties. And if we talk about indirect tax, it refers to the VAT, that's the primary and more immediately effective mechanism, attack on consumption collected at the point of sales. The focus of PMK 60 2020-22 is on this VAT collection. And Indonesia strategy, I think, is very comprehensive and tackling both of income and consumption, and the income tax component is challenging. I think it's challenging because it requires defining a significant economic presence, or SEP, for a company that isn't physically there. This is the topic of global debate, and Indonesia has been leader in implementing this concept. But yeah, However, the more immediate and successful approach has been the VAT, since the VAT is the tax on consumption. It aligns with the principle that tax should be paid where the good and service is consumed, and regardless of where the provider is located. I think the VAT is very successful applied in Indonesia until now in 2025. Okay, we next to this next slide. The object of VAT, digital good and services, and the VAT is collected on the utilization of first is intangible taxable good. If Indonesia, we call it barang kena pajak tidak berwujud. And the second one is taxable services. In bahasa, we call it jasa kena pajak. This must be from outside the custom area and utilized with Indonesia. For example, like intangible goods is like e-book, softwares, digital games, virtual goods, and for the services, for example, it's like streaming movies, streaming music, web hosting, online advertising, and cloud services. Yeah, I think the regulation is quite specific about what is being taxed based on the regulation. It's not just about physical goods sold online. It's about the consumption of digital product and services. The language from outside the customer area and utilized within is a key. Yeah, I think that's the point. How the language, like from outside to the custom area and utilize within this regulation. This means that foreign company that hosts its servers elsewhere but provide a service in Indonesian user or to Indonesian user is subject to this tax. That's, I think, the key point. So if the service to an Indonesian user, so Indonesia had the obligation, have the authority, and have the right to get the tax from the transaction. And transaction under PM Key 60 2020-2022, the regulation applies to both of business to business or B2B and business to customer or B2C transaction. And B2C, foreign streamer, like a foreign streaming services provider, sell subscription to individual in Indonesia. Or if we compare with B2B, it's like a foreign cloud computing provider sells server space to a business entity in Indonesia. That's two perspective, one from direct end customer, one for the business. Yeah, the key principle, the tax is collected and remitted to the Indonesian government, even if the transaction is entirely digital and cross-border. And this broad application to both of B2B and B2C, I think is very crucial because it ensures that the tax is applied consistently across the digital economy. The tax is collected at the point of sales, which is a simpler and more efficient way to capture revenue for a large volume of transaction. Okay, we move to the next slide. So the VAT collector in bahasa, we call it pemungut PPN PMSE. Jadi I think more easier to say in English, yeah, VAT collector. Compare with Indonesian language, it's more longer than the English version. So now, who is collector from based on this regulation? First is a business entity appointed by the Minister of Finance. And the second one, the term of PMSE, VAT collector. PMSE like a VAT collector here based on this regulation. Still in Bahasa, we call it pemungut PPN PMSE. That's two collector. Now, type of the collectors. First, foreign merchant or seller. The second one, foreign services providers and foreign PMSE operators like international marketplace and domestic PMSE operator like local marketplace facilitating by foreign or facilitating the foreign transaction. That's the VAT collector. And the government doesn't change. Indonesian the government based on this regulation implies that they doesn't chase millions of individual taxpayer. Instead, it target a manageable number of large digital companies who will then collect that on its behalf. And this is common and efficient model used in many countries, I think. And the appointment is formal process with the Director General Tax issue an official decree. Okay, we move to the next slide. Now we discuss about criteria for the appointment. First, there's two criteria. First, automatic appointment. The second one is voluntary appointment. And the automatic appointment is the Directorate General of Tax or DGT will automatically appoint a business that meet the following criteria. First, transaction value. We say that we focus on transaction value and user traffic. That's two main focus. Transaction value, there's like a threshold over than 600 million in calendar year or over than 50 million in single month. Or if we see the user traffic is over than 12,000 user or website visitor from Indonesia in a calendar year or over than 1,000 in single month. So how about the voluntary appointment? So voluntary appointment is business that do not meet this threshold can also choose to be appointed. Wow, that's great. We just can provide a strategic advantage and simply compliance. I think that's our business want. Yeah. So the threshold are designed to capture the most significant player in the digital market. They are based on the either economic value or to the share of the volume of the user. And the company that meet either of this criteria is obligated to become a tax collector. The voluntary option is, I think, what's a great for smaller but growing digital company to get ahead of the curve and ensure the compliance from the start. Okay, now we move to the tax rate and tax base. How we can calculate the tax for the digital, especially for the VAT. And the rate of VAT is 11%, effective from 1 April 2022, but now changed to 12%, yeah, starting 2025. Yeah, the tax is calculated from the value of the payment made by the buyer or recipient of the services, and the tax is added to the total transaction value. I put some simple example here, like for example, the customer pays for digital services. The price is 100,000 rupiah. And then the tax collected is 1%. Sorry, not 1%. 11% from 100,000. So it means that 11,000 rupiah. So the total amount that customer will pay is 111,000 rupiah. So if we use 11%, but now in 2025, the VAT rate in Indonesia is more higher than 11, but now is 12% starting 1st of January 2025. So better for next calculation, you guys use 12%, not 11%. The dual tax approach, income tax and VAT. Now we talk about the form and key information that, because we already talk about the how the tax base, who is the collector of this type of tax. Now we talk about the form and key information. Document issued by the PMSE VAT collector to the customer. This document serves as a proof that the VAT has been collected. And common forms is like the commercial invoice, billing statement, and order receipt. That's the common form that you can use based to be based of tax calculation or tax collected. And key information, the document must be explicitly state that VAT has been collected. For business customer who want to claim the tax as a credit, the document must include their name and Indonesian tax ID, or we call in bahasa is NPWP. Okay, that's like yeah, the reporting obligation. Okay. Now this document is critical for the compliance and for the customer. It's digital version of the receipt that proves that the tax was paid. For businesses, this document is essential for their own tax reporting, as it allows them to credit the VAT that they paid against to their own tax obligation. Yeah, that's we call the tax credit mechanism in Indonesia, or in specific Indonesian VAT. Okay, we move to the next slide about the payment and reporting obligation. The payment, how we can pay the tax and report the tax. It's very simple. The PMSE VAT collector must deposit the collected tax into the state of treasury, or we call it DJP, and payment must be made on the quarterly basis, quarterly basis, and the deadline is the end of the month following the end of the quarter. So basically, you need to pay the end of quarterly. That's the list, yeah. Payment can be made in multiple currency, including rupiah, Indonesian rupiah, or US dollar. And how about the reporting? Reporting is because we paid it quarterly. The same goes with the reporting. A quarterly report known as the VAT periodic tax return, or we call in bahasa is SPT Masa PPN PMSI, must be submitted electronically through the Digitis PMSI portal. So government will provide system, we call it PMSE portal. There is option to submit digitally, so you don't need to use any paper, just need to submit by digital, by online, through the system that provided by government. I think that's a very good reporting system, yeah. Okay. Now, okay, we talk about the challenge and the future outlook for this regulation. So the challenge we face that enforcement or ensuring that all eligible foreign business in comply. That's the big issue in Indonesia. How the government can ensure that all the eligible foreign business can paid the tax or compile with this regulation. And the regulation are complex, and foreign company may struggle to adapt their system, but struggle it's not mean like impossible. And DJV can give you access to learning about, or to give you like access to teach you how you can adapt this regulation. And waiting for the global consensus on digital taxation, for example, like OECD Pillar 1 and 2 to avoid international dispute. Yeah, we're still waiting for the Pillar 1 and Pillar 2. Maybe they will change or something. Yeah. And future outlook. So digital tax regulation are a dynamic field, and Indonesia continued to refine its law. For example, the VAT rate is set to increase to 12% in near future, but now already increased. Sorry, I need to change my PPT, but now in 2025, the VAT rates already increased up to 12%. And government is exploring more advanced technology-driven monitor system. Yes, that's important, yeah, because I think no tax is perfect, and Indonesian digital tax framework is no exception. Yeah, enforcement is a constant challenge, and businesses, especially those not familiar with Indonesian law, may find compliance difficult. Yeah, the global community is still working on standard approach, and Indonesia regulation may need to adapt as the global standard emerge. And the increase in the VAT rate is another example of how this dynamic and evolving policy area. Okay, we move to our next slide. So we came from the conclusion now. So Indonesia has successfully implemented a VAT-based digital tax system. And the global framework is designed to be fair, efficient, aligned with the global tax principle. And it established a level of playing field filed from both of domestic and international businesses. And the focus is on consumption with designed business acting as the collector. That's very good. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, we have some question here for our discussion. So maybe from the participant can give answer about this discussion. So given Indonesian legal framework of taxing the digital economy, which include the VAT on intangible goods and services, and requirement from the foreign company to act as a tax collector, so what do you see as the biggest potential challenge for these foreign businesses in comply with the regulation, and how might they mitigate this challenge? Okay, I hope you can give us any insight to capture this discussion. Okay, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for hear my explanation about Indonesian tax, especially for the VAT of the digital transaction, digital economy. I hope we'll meet you later in another discussion. And thank you so much. Bye-bye.